Welcome to Ask Earl Anything, and this is the show where you ask me a question and I answer your questions. So let's get right started with it. I have a few questions, and let's see what we've got this week. Now, the first question comes from Michael Perry, and it wasn't asked in the Ask Earl Anything questions, but I thought it was a good question, so I think I'll start with Michael's question. Michael runs the community. What does he call his drum community? I don't spend a lot of time in the Google communities, but I'm a member of Michael's. It's called Drummer's Den. Sorry, Michael. I'm having a 58-year-old moment at that moment right there. But Google Plus is going away, so everybody's scrambling right now to figure out what communities they're going to be a part of. Another one of my friends, Tony, All Classic Drum Covers, he's moving his community to an app called, let me get the app. Hold on a second. The app is called Amino. That's what I thought it was called, Amino. I'm trying it out. I dropped the video on there. It doesn't seem real easy to work with, but I guess we're going to try to work out the kinks. But there are some drum communities still in Google+, but I heard after January 1, these communities are going away. So I'll talk more about that at some other point in time. But Michael Perry is an E-drummer, and he asked me a question about these two toms over here. Now, this kit is what they call a fiberglass concert tom kit, is what I'm calling it. It's fashioned after the monster kit of Hal Blaine, and I brought it down a little bit. I did a couple covers on it. I did Show Me the Way, Peter Frampton. I did I've Been Searching So Long by Chicago, and I also did Suspicious Minds by Elvis Presley. And I had the 8-inch tom over here, the 10 here, and the 13 here, and the 14 here. I've reduced the 14 to get kind of a more of a different kind of sound. It's got 6 toms right now. There is a 14 by 14 floor tom here. So he asked me a question, what do I mount these floor toms on? These are not floor toms, these are concert toms that are mounted on a tom mounting stand. This is mounted on a rack, and this is mounted on a tom mounting stand. So, but he wanted to know if I liked them up high. And in actuality, it's kind of a little weird playing them up high, but for this kind of a big 70s kit, this is the way we had drum kits set up. One of my favorite drummers I've talked a lot about, Danny Serafine, used to play a Slingerland kit with a 10, 12, 14, 16, and a 14 by 14 floor tom for many years in the early 80s. That was his, it was kind of like a Quadra Plus, as Ludwig used to call it, kit. And he had them mounted this way. I never got into playing my toms here. This has been a tough spot for me to play toms. But I've tried it a few times, and it was fun doing these covers with it. Danny's other kit had an 8 and a 6-inch tom over here, and it was kind of an interesting kit for the 77 tour, the last Terry Kath tour. And then after Terry passed away, he went to more of the 4 toms over here for many years. And then he went to 2 bass drums with these 2 in the middle and these 2 off to the side and floor toms. So I kind of always wanted a concert tom kit in the style of Danny Serafine and Hal Blaine, my other mentor. Hal Blaine had 8 toms, 6, 8, 10, 12. He also had a 13-inch, I think it was a 13 or a 12-inch regular tom. Then he had a 13, 14, 15 tom. So he had 7 concert toms. He had like almost an octave of, what was an octave of sound. Ludwig added the extra 16-inch tom and really made it a full octave of notes. So the way you were supposed to tune it was in a major scale or a minor scale to basically get all the notes of an octave in there, if you wanted to. So anyhow, these 2 toms on a stand, it's a little bit difficult to get around, but you know, if you're using E-drums, you may find that works fine, you know, and you can get around. I like using 2 floor toms sometimes. All depends on what mood I'm in, you know, so anyhow, I thought that was a kind of a cool question. I thought some of you guys would like to know a little bit more about this kit. Definitely wanted to talk about the kit. I like sitting in front of it. It's nice to have up. Last year around this time, I did a cover of Do You Know It's Christmas? And it has a lot of hits on it for me. It's one of my bigger videos with views. And I did it with the concert tom kit, a la Phil Collins. Now, I didn't have the rims mounts at that point, so I had some funky mounting systems on there to make it work. But I've since bought rims mounts for the 10, 13, 14, 15, had one for the 16-inch tom. So all these toms are on rims mounts. It makes it a lot easier to mount on things. I still have a 10 and an 8 that go on this floor stand, this traditional Pearl concert tom stand. And I'm still looking for a 6-inch tom and a 12-inch tom. I'm missing a 6 and a 12 of the fiberglass toms. But this is just fiberglass, not wood, fiberglass. And I took the covering off the Pearl toms, which were real easy to do. Pearl has made such a crappy covering on their toms, it was with one band of tape. So all I had to do was get that one band of tape off and the whole thing just came apart, taking off the lugs and stuff. My 13, 14, 15, 16-inch toms were already cracked and opened up, so it was kind of a no-brainer for me to just take it off. And then I picked up another 10 and 8, and I took that off there. It came off easy. And I kind of like the look of it. I was originally going to paint these drums, but I haven't got around to painting them ever. I was going to go black, piano black is what I wanted to do, a la Steve Gadd. I was also going to put double heads on it at one point, but never got around to that either. Anyhow, hope I answered your question, Michael. Keep doing your community, Drummer's Den, until the end. There are a few of my videos in Drummer's Den. There's a few of my videos in All Classic Drum Covers. There's a few of my videos in Zach's community, Zach Drums community. There's a couple of my videos in Drum-On's community on Facebook. There's a few of my videos in Jeff Holden's community. So I'm in a bunch of communities. I just don't post there regularly with the communities. I find it, you know, YouTube's my main community and that's where I post. And I'm not really good at posting either, anything outside of it. It takes me a lot of effort to do that for some reason. All right. So the next question is from Stephen Jones, another subscriber. He says, "Hi Earl, glad to have you back. Different cymbal question. What are some of the worst sounding cymbals you've ever tried, Steve?" Now, I don't want to offend AR drummer Adam, okay? All right? Adam is the collector of cymbals that I don't consider great cymbals, by the way. But he loves all those crazy cymbals. So I'll give you my list of bad sounding cymbals. I am not going to attack any of the B20 cymbal companies that have come out of the woodwork since the early 2000s. So I'm not going to attack the Saludas, and I'm not going to attack the Heartbeats, and I'm not going to attack the Soul Tones. You know, some of them are actually make some very nice lines of cymbals. You just got to find one that you like, okay? But when I think of B20, I think of Zildjian, Sabian, Istanbul. Istanbul started in the 90s. They were the first one to come up alongside of Zildjian and really doing the K thing, the Zildjian and Sabian K thing. You know what I mean? So Istanbul's got a nice cymbal. I have a couple Istanbuls. I don't have any of the Agap Istanbuls. I've got some of the Mahet. I have a Mahet and actually an original series, just Istanbul cymbal. But I'm not going to attack any of those guys. Those are all great sounding cymbals. You'll find what you like, you don't like. There's lots of good and bad in all those cymbals. But of cymbals that are collectible, I would say one of the worst lines of cymbals that are collectible and people want are the Ludwig Standard cymbals. And I actually had two Ludwig Standards. I had an 18-inch Sizzle Crash, and I had a pair of 14-inch hats that sounded, they were nickel, and they sounded so nasty, I gave them to some kid on the street somewhere. I think I gave them away in a garage sale for like $2 or something stupid. Didn't think they were worth anything. Then I find them on eBay selling for like, you know, 200 bucks for a pair of Ludwig Standard nickel, you know, cymbals. It just crushes me, you know what I mean? I even had big globs of duct tape on them. I used them for practice cymbals on like on a practice pad kit. Anyhow, they're some of the worst sounding cymbals. The other ones are camber. Camber are just annoyingly disgusting cymbals. Crut, another cymbal. Now these are cymbals that were coming up when they were the cheap cymbals you bought in the 70s. Crut, camber, you know, Ludwig Standard, CB700. I mean, you're talking about really bad cymbals. Usually they're nickel or they're just brass. And brass cymbals sound terrible, okay? You want a bronze cymbal. You need some kind of a combination of copper and brass to kind of make the cymbal right, you know what I mean? And to have anything that's not bronze just doesn't work. Brass is great for snare drums, but cymbals not so much. And nickel, ugh. Nickel, Paiste still makes some nickel cymbals every once in a while. They put them out in some line. Nickel is terrible, okay? Paiste does B8 great, but I don't like any of their nickel stuff. I never have liked. I actually believe Paiste made the Ludwig standard cymbals. So I think if you go back through the history in the 60s, Ludwig was buying their Ludwig standard cymbals from Paiste. Really nasty cymbals. I just didn't like them. So that's my answer to the question. I don't know if Adam's got any of those. Adam can answer this one if he wants to jump in on this question. But, you know, the Wuhan copies, you know, some Wuhans are really bad. But if you find some really old Wuhans, sometimes they sound really awesome. So, and as far as Wuhan Chinas go, there is a certain sound a Wuhan makes that only a Wuhan makes. My next question comes from Toasty. And Toasty says, another classic video. Now he was talking about my ride cymbal video, by the way. He said, as I've mentioned, I use Paiste, and as a tone and versatility is pleasing to my ears. I actually have a question for you. When I picked up 15-inch 2002 hats, a guy gave me a pair of Paiste 3000s, I believe from 1986. I know they stopped making the 2000s during that period, and had yet to start manufacturing the signatures. So this 3000 is super heavy, large bell, and has that Paiste tone. Did the 3000s become the signatures, or the 2002 replacement, or just a different animal? Finally, the one cymbal that's not Paiste that I really like for versatility is a 20-inch Zildjian projection ride. Why the change from light to heavy? That's another part of my question about my own choice in ride cymbals. So let me take on the 3000 question first. The 3000s are definitely not Paiste signatures. They are the replacement for the 2002s. I don't know what got in Paiste's brain in the mid-80s. I have some Paiste friends that might want to answer that question someday and let me know. But something got into Paiste's brains, and they said 505 is no good, 602 no good, 404 no good, 2002 no good. Paiste had this way of putting two numbers of the same on the end of each, 404, 505, 2002. Something changed why they decided to go to 3000. But they went 3000, 2000, 1000. The 1000 had the green label on it, and I think it was more towards the 505-ish type thing. But then if you look at some of the 2000s look like they got the lathing of the 505s. Okay? The 3000s definitely have more of the lathing towards the patterns of the 2002s. And they stayed red. They also made root cymbals in all three of those lines, or at least two of them. I think the 1000s and the 3000s had roots. So that was kind of an interesting thing. But I don't know why they changed the name, but they were B8 cymbals as far as I can tell. As were the 2000s and as were the 1000s. They were all B8 cymbals. And Paiste just decided to change things up. And then by the late 80s, early 90s, it was the Signature series, which is a completely different alloy. And it's a very awesome cymbal. I mean, the Paiste signatures are great cymbals. I had a friend in New Jersey who bought a whole set of Paistes, and I had them for about 2 weeks at my house, and I was playing them. I loved them. They're crystal clear, perfect little pitch to everything. They're nice and they get out of the way. Again, my only beef with the Signature alloy is that they do bend eventually if you beat them hard enough. And I bent up a Signature China I bought in 1990, so I know that for a fact. But other than that, that's about it. Now, as far as heavy to thinner ride cymbals, I was never looking for a heavy ride cymbal. I had a Rock 21 ride. My first ride cymbal was a Rock 21 Zildjian, which was a heavy ride cymbal. I don't know how heavy it was because I didn't weigh cymbals back in that day, but they were pretty heavy. I was going for a dark ride cymbal. I wanted dark. I've come to find out that thinner produces darker. The thinner it is, the more it gives you the illusion of darker because it's got a lower pitch. if a big cymbal is thin, like a 22 that's thin, this is around 2,300 grams, somewhere in that point. This Paiste is actually got a darkness to it. It's like a deep, low pitch, so it's kind of dark because of that. Okay? So the thicker the cymbal is and the bigger the cymbal is, the more bright and pingy it is and more cuts through. And guys in the 80s wanted those pingy rides. I never liked the pinginess, but I wanted the darkness and I wanted the dryness. So I was always looking for dark and dry. Now the way we dried up cymbals back in the 70s and 80s is we put a piece of tape on the bottom. Take a piece of gaffer tape or duct tape on the bottom and you would dry up a cymbal. So you were getting that dry ride cymbal. We did that to a lot of thinner cymbals to try to get more ping out of them. Because in the 60s they made cymbals thinner, like the giant beats are a thinner range of cymbals. Probably if you found 2002s from the early 70s, they were thinner than you'd find 2002s in the reissued into the 2000s, or even close to the when they went out and became the 3000s, you know, in the mid 80s. So cymbals have changed a lot over the years, but I think everybody was going for heavier cymbals back in the 80s because we were playing loud rock and roll music and nobody wanted to crack cymbals, and a big heavy ride cymbal made it harder to crack. And it gave you that definition, it cut through. But I never liked the really thick cymbals. I just liked the dark tone is what I was going for. So in the last couple years when they started making thinner and thinner cymbals, and the Cropes were the first really thin cymbal I bought for the Crope. The 22-inch Crope was like 2,351 grams. I think this is 2,300 grams, this one. And I've got a Paiste Giant Beat 24-inch, which is 2,920 grams, which is less than 3,000 grams for a 24-inch ride. I think those really are telling to where I'm going. Thinner cymbals, crashability, and that kind of washy darkness that I really like. So projection ride is just too heavy for me today. I don't enjoy having those cymbals. They can't crash on them. They're only ride cymbals. Most of the great jazz drummers had cymbals you can ride and crash on. Tony Williams didn't call his cymbals ride or crash. They were all rides, they were all crash cymbals in his brain. That was the way he approached it. And I think that's the wave of the Avitas line, the Crope line, even the Constantinople line, I mean, was trying to go for that. Some of the Constantinoples could be crash rides. The Paiste Big Beat line, the Giant Beat line, those are all crash rides. Sabian's doing it with the Legacy series, or they're doing it with the Vanguard series, or the Artisan series. They're getting crash rides out of a lot of that stuff. I mean, they may be calling them crashes, but you can go both directions with it. So it's just a mindset thing. But great questions, great questions. All right. My last question today is from Richard Stewart. Now, Richard Stewart, if you watch Richard, I'm going to tell you something today. Richard Stewart likes to post all my videos on Facebook, and he links it to me. I just want to let you all know, I don't put all my videos on Facebook because all my friends would hate me and hate the fact that I do that. I do that on my Instagram account. My Instagram account, everybody knows it's a friend of mine, knows my Instagram account's about my teaching business and promoting my drum covers. That's what I do at Instagram. So Instagram I don't even put any family stuff on Instagram anymore. I took all the family stuff down. But when it comes to Facebook, Facebook's kind of a friends and family place for me. And if I put a cover up on my Facebook, it's because I want to put it there. So if you tag me in my name, it gets put into a folder of, I have to approve it, and I rarely approve those, just to let you know. I learned that 3 or 4 years ago, back when I had somebody that was constantly tagging me and stuff and putting it on my wall and taking over my wall, because what I want to say on my wall is what I want to say. When I want to say something on my wall, I'm going to open my mouth and write it. So I only put things on my wall I want to put there, unless it's something a friend really shares with me, touches me deeply, and then I do it. So Richard, don't be offended, but that's just the way it is. So you don't have to put my videos on my wall anymore. If you want to share my videos, great. I appreciate anybody seeing my videos. And I'm glad you're a fan and you like my show and all that. That's great. Awesome. Your question was, can I do a discussion on Piccolo snare drums? Now, I don't have a Piccolo snare drum to show in this video. I've had piccolo snare drums in my career. As a matter of fact, I had another question that was, I'll tell you who it was from. It's in this pile here. This is from Stephen Jones. I may throw this into the video today. He asked me for a picture of me with a mullet. I said, I mentioned in one of my last episodes I had a mullet. Well, the only picture I can find that has me, I actually have the mullet, but you can't see the mullet, is from a concert I did at Creation Fest. Creation Festival 1990. I was in a band called Water, believe it or not. And we went on the main stage at Creation Fest at 10 o'clock in the morning, right before the Newsboys went on. The Newsboys were not big in 1990, so we were right there before the Newsboys. We ended up being not big in 1991, by the way. I was out of the band by that point in time. They went on to be a cover band in clubs in Jersey, and then they eventually broke up. But this was on the main stage at Creation Fest, 30,000 people. I was probably playing, in the morning we were probably playing to 10,000 people. But it was the first time I ever heard a monitor engineer, even having a monitor engineer, basically say to me, how do the drums sound in the monitors? I'm going, he goes, do you want more kick drum? And I was like, kick drum in the monitors? What are you talking about? He goes, yeah, and he turned it up. I was hitting the kick drum, and he was, oh, that's cool. He put some more kick in there and more snare in my monitor for the first time. These were floor wedge monitors back in the 90s. Before in-ears. We didn't always have in-ears, by the way. I used to have to put on headphones to listen to a click because we were sequencing tracks. We used to travel with a big desktop computer to run our sequences, and I had to put on headphones, but I could still feel that thing driving right through me. But anyhow, this picture's of me at that concert, and I have a mullet, but you can't see it, unfortunately. I don't have any of the, there's a picture of me getting my hair done by the lead singer's then, I don't know if it was a girlfriend or a wife. I'm not sure at that point. She may have been a girlfriend at that point. Fiance, became the wife, and then that's another story too I won't go into today. Too many of those stories these days. But anyhow, I'm going to share that picture. But also in that picture, and the reason why I'm sharing it is I have a brass piccolo snare drum in the picture. And the brass piccolo snare drum is a pearl piccolo snare drum. A 3.5 by 14 brass free-floating snare drum. Beautiful drum, will crack your head off. As a matter of fact, I've told the story about this piccolo because the reason my nickname is the Hammer is I brought that to band rehearsal and played it, and the lead singer of the band turned around and said, I'm going to start calling you the Hammer, you're cracking my head off. And that was that snare drum. So piccolo snare drums are a one-trick pony for me. Now, of piccolo snare drums, I really like the 14-inch variety over the 13-inch variety. I have a couple 13-inch snare drums. Both are, one's a 5 and one's a 6.5, and they can go into the piccolo range, but they can also do other things. Piccolos only do piccolo sounds. They don't really have that beefiness. And the 13s are even more notorious for having nothing but that one cracky sound. That's all you really get out of it. That's worth talking about. Of the piccolos, the pearl free-floating brass and the brass Yamaha, first made in the 80s, with the original, what were they called? Maple Custom type lugs? The little square brass lugs. They made the original brass snare drum with those lugs on it. That's a collectible item if you can find one of those. 3.5 by 14, excellent, excellent piccolo snare drums, and my favorites. I also, my friend Alan Levine has my DMR 4x14 that Dan made for me, and right now Alan's got that. Okay, I traded him for a flat ride, so he wanted that piccolo sound, that kind of 4x14 sound. Buddy Rich used the 4x14 for many years, so a lot of jazz drummers like that 4x14 kind of sound, and that's what this drum had. But again, it was still in that piccolo range, which is a one-trick pony, pretty much a high-pitched drum. The piccolo thing hasn't come back for me, and I can get a high pitch out of my 5x14 Noble Cooley. I can get, I'll crack your face off. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't need a piccolo, but piccolos are cool drums. And if they really came back, maybe I'd pick one up again. And I would tell you, if you're looking for collectability, look for that Yamaha drum. If you're looking for a great piccolo that sounds awesome, the 3.5 by 14 Pearl free-floating brass snare drum is great. The Pearl free-floating drums are great drums, by the way. They're just great drums. But I still wish I hadn't bought the Pearl free-floating snare drum and bought that 5 by 14 brass Ludwig, WFL Ludwig snare drum Superphonic, but I didn't. Anyhow, I melded a whole bunch of my stories together. I think if you guys are followers of me, you know where I went with that one. But if you're not followers of me, you probably don't. But you can go back and search some of my other Ask Earl Anythings. I've got a bunch of them. I've gone down rampages about the brass Superphonic that I should have bought and the piccolo that I did buy. So. But that's it for me. Thank you for watching Ask Earl Anything. I hope you enjoyed the show. Your questions make the show. Leave a question and I'll try to get to it. And thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. And I really do appreciate you guys all as subscribers. You guys really make doing this YouTube channel fun. So I enjoy this show and I enjoy doing this for you guys. So thank you. Leave comments, like, and subscribe. Have a great day. Bye. Take that as far as we're going to take that.